The combustible and curiously revealing rise of Reform UK uh, is rather like picking a scab, isn't it? Nigel Farage's theatrical foray into Scotland yesterday and the extraordinary spectacle of the Hamilton Lark Hall and Storehouse by-election, which many now describe with varying degrees of alarm and incredulity as a two-horse race between the Scottish National Party and Reform UK. You heard that correctly. Reform UK in Scotland competing uh, in a way that looks credible. It sounds improbable. Scotland has long been immune to Farageist populism. In 2016, 62% of Scots voted to remain in the European Union. UKIP and its offshoots have historically polled abysmally north of the border. Farage himself was memorably chased from a pub in Edinburgh in 2013, an episode which he's not forgotten and some suggest never forgiven, yet here he is again undeterred and crucially polling competitively. The by-election in question, triggered by the death of SNP MSP Christina McKelvey, was initially expected to be a conventional duel between Labour and the SNP, but Farage, like a pantomime villain with a spreadsheet, a Union Jack tie and a fondness for fossil fuels, has ensured that Reform UK claims that only it, not Labour, can stop the SNP. And it would be easy to dismiss this as bluster. Farage is master of the political feint, a man for whom provocation is both method and message. But behind the circus act, the helicopters, the defecting councillors, from Glasgow now, inflammatory remarks, lies a serious and unsettling truth. The reform is resonating with a segment of Scottish voters who feel abandoned, unheard, and deeply sceptical of all existing options. You need to consider the evidence. In Hamilton, Reform is reportedly polling at 18%, just behind Labour at 19%, and within striking distance of the SNP's 33%. This in a region where UKIP previously courted its votes in the hundreds and counted them not even in the thousands. What has changed? Three factors. Firstly, the failure of the mainstream. Labour remains hamstrung by its long decline in Scotland and Keir Starmer's oddly antiseptic appeal. The SNP, beset by internal scandals and stagnation, no longer inspires the unshakable loyalty it once commanded. The Conservatives, meanwhile, are visibly floundering, with defections now routine. When Douglas Lumsden describes his own party's prospects as difficult, that's a code for embarrassing. And, of course, being led by Kemi Badenoch down south doesn't help. Second, Farage's messaging, his rhetoric on net zero, calling it the next Brexit, is calculated and shrewd. In the northeast, where the oil and gas industry still looms large, his Drill Scotland Drill slogan may strike some as a parody of Donald Trump, but it lands with economic force. The same applies to his assaults on immigration, on the establishment, and now provocatively on Labour's Scottish leader Anas Sawar, with remarks that have justifiably been condemned as inflammatory and racist. But of course, the point is that Farage is a name that is memorable, slips off the tongue. Like what? I don't know. Do you know in Tudor times people used to clean their teeth with urine? And here, I suppose I must pause to acknowledge the disgraceful Reform UK ad, which misquoted Sawa and reduced a call for diverse representation to a sectarian dog whistle. Farage's refusal to apologise and his repetition of fabricated phrases marks a low point in Scottish political discourse. To mischaracterise a speech in pursuit of a racial culture war is not merely dishonest, it's profoundly dangerous. And third, simply the media oxygen. As with Donald Trump, Farage thrives not despite outrage, but because of it. Every rebuttal, every protest outside a fish restaurant in Aberdeen simply amplifies his message. And when both Swinney and Sawa begin their speeches by condemning reform, they elevate him. The theatre of opposition lends him a perverse legitimacy. And that's really the point. This isn't about Farage the individual, nor is it about one Holyrood seat. It's about the gap he is exploiting. And people, I would say even now, not unlike me, are curious to know whether or not the rumours are true. How do you know if the rumours are true? The rumours about Farage being a racist, about Farage being divisive, about Farage having no policies, about Farage simply being unpleasant. A man who walks around from pub to pub looking affable. How can this man be so unpleasant? How can this man be leading such a vicious, such a heinous crowd? And then you meet Reform supporters, as I met UKIP supporters, and you think, well, they're very nice. But it's not until you actually get into the system and you meet the people up at the top that you realize this is an organization that is run by vicious ne'er-do-wells who have a background in racism, in the various sectarian organizations like the National Front, BNP, and so on. Look at their background. Look where they come from, the people who are silently managing this organization. Yes, Farage doesn't have a clear structure to his organization, but the same people go from one organization to the next. They go from UKIP to Brexit Party, from the Brexit Party to Reform, and they're there in the background, looking vicious and threatening anyone who gets out of line. And there is racism. I did a video yesterday where I said Farage tolerates racism. He may contribute to it too. I don't know. I don't have evidence of that. I know what I read in the media, but that's the point. The media isn't always credible when it comes to Farage. You need to get the information. You need to find that information. I found the information. I know that when I say that UKIP and the Brexit Party and Reform, all run by the same person, all part of the same brand, are fundamentally racist. I know that's true. I know that's true because I've seen the evidence, because I've heard the evidence, because I've called it out directly. And I also know that it's true that the way UKIP entices people, or the way UKIP enticed people into its fold, just as Reform does, is on the soft sell. Europe's got many problems. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. And only Reform and UKIP appear to be addressing them. Everyone else goes along with it. The main parties go along with it. So you think, maybe there's something here. But there isn't. There isn't. And the main parties should be addressing these issues. They're not. Because Farage has made these issues his own. This is the Farage light. This is the bit that ropes in, that ensnares the cautious. As I say, I know. And I got involved with UKIP because I was curious, and because I thought it cannot be as racist as the newspapers allege. And I looked to see if there really was racism. And there wasn't for the most part. The racism is hidden right at the top. And whether Farage is racist, I don't know. Does Farage indulge that racism? Absolutely. Absolutely. Again and again and again. And when you call it out, and when you say there's another candidate who's just said something racist and appalling, Farage says, well, I'm not shallow. I didn't realise that. No. And by the way, I'm not trying a Michael Caine on him. I'm trying to replicate the voice used by Tony Curtis in Some Like It Hot. It's itself a parody of Cary Grant, and I find it very funny myself. I'm a person of little brain, but I find it very funny to belittle Farage as an imitation of Cary Grant. And will Farage win this by-election? Probably not. But it's that sense that there's that you don't know who Farage is, that you don't know who Reform is. That's the problem, and I'm trying to call that out. I'm trying to say we do know who Reform is. Reform is Farage, and Farage is the person who indulges racism, and that's the key point. This isn't about them and us. That's what Farage would want us to believe. The disenfranchised against the political class, the northeast oil worker against the net oil civil servant, the ordinary Scot against the imagined woke elite. That's why Reform is doing better than expected, not because of its message, but because of who isn't offering a compelling alternative. Labour isn't offering a compelling alternative. The Conservatives aren't offering a compelling alternative. The SNP, frankly, isn't really. Now, will Farage win that by-election? I doubt it. Not because of its message, but because of who isn't who isn't there. But the Labour's the SNP still commands a disciplined vote, and Labour's Davy Russell may yet rally tactical support. But the mere fact that Reform UK is being discussed as a contest, as a two-horse race between Farage and the governing party of Scotland, is itself a profound shock to the system, and is a calculated shock. That's the message. Not whether or not Farage is going to win, but whether or not he's being taken seriously. And that's why he needs to be ridiculed with a Cary Grant imitation. And this by-election may well be the canary in the coal mine, or more aptly the tartan trumpet, heralding Reform's serious ambitions for Holyrood in 2026. But the political establishment must ask itself not only how to beat Farage, but how to render him irrelevant by making themselves relevant. That means not simply denouncing his racism, essential though it is, but offering policies that are clear, tangible, and delivered or deliverable. If voters feel they must choose between grievance and decline, many will plump for grievance. The antidote must be credibility, and they will say, well, Farage can't be as racist as people claim. Farage can't be as destructive as people claim because he's taken seriously down south and in the coastal constituencies. He's taken seriously. So yes, Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse matters, not just for its result, but for what it reveals. For if Scotland, for decades a bulwark against Faragism, is now up for grabs, then no political certainty in Britain is sacred. And the reason it's up for grabs, and the reason Farage is even credible, is because Kemi Badenoch is so appalling, and because Labour is lurching to the right to try to outperform Farage. Farage has dictated the language and the terrain on which this battle is being fought. And both Labour and the Conservatives are nimwits, twits, for conceding that Farage can possibly define the politics yet again of the day.